Ladies and gentlemen, sit back and enjoy as you watch some of those skills and techniques as we turn this Ag Center over to Mr. Josh Nichol. Give it up for him, folks.
Thank you, Joe. A little hoarse this morning. I apologize about that. I sound a little more mature, I guess. Okay, so today's focus is yesterday we spent quite a bit of time going through my philosophy, defining what relational horsemanship is about, how that actually plays out, and how a horse moves. I believe you can't separate them. The way you define a horse sets a tone, and that's going to dictate how you work them. And then that's going to dictate how their body moves. Because how you handle them is either going to build tension into their body or it's going to remove it. Okay? I'm giving lectures, first lectures this afternoon, and that's on relational horsemanship and the pillars of that. So if we kind of went over those yesterday in the demo, but I'm going to get more specific about those in the lecture. So if that intrigues you, come on over to that this afternoon. What I'm doing today is I intend to, I'm actually going to be giving a lesson to Jackie as well. She's down on the other end. She's volunteered herself for that. But first I'm going to do a little demonstration with Bentley. So from a relational horsemanship perspective, I need to be my horse's first advocate. Okay, so initially I had intentions. This is his first time going to town, really. You know, a big event like this. He's done lots at home, and he's worked cattle, and he's spent some time doing things like that. But this is a big deal, and he's trying his best. So I opted not to put the 2-rein on him today. So I know that was one of the things that was where I was going to go. But I felt like for him that was because he's packed it and he's doing well in it. But it was going to be too many combinations. So I just want to share that with you guys because I'm not here necessarily just to act out what it should be. I want to demonstrate to you how I think it should be played out. And so then to take care of him, I'm actually going to ride him in the hackamore today, which is a step just below the 2-rein. And I believe that's how it should be, is if your horse is struggling, I got to take care of him first. And he's already demonstrating that he's trying and is able to feel like we're on the same team. So I feel like I made the right choice there. We're still going to show you how he moves. I'm still going to work him and ride him, and I look forward to sharing that with you. You know, the way the quarter horse body is that they're a little bit more downhill, so they got to work really hard behind to pick themselves up in comparison to something like an Andalusian, whom I'm going to ride tomorrow. So you'll see a bit of difference in that. All right, so my focus here is a quick little demo on him. Then I'm going to prioritize Jackie. What I had intended, and I'm not sure if I'm going to need to, but my liberty work is predominantly based upon meeting needs. So I don't make it like an act, okay? And I don't mean that when people do liberty work, it's an act. But what I want it to be here is a demonstration of balance between space and mind. So as we talked about yesterday, this is important. Now, from Bentley's perspective, I just want to make sure before I go and do some stuff that he's hooked on. So I just want to kind of spend a minute here for him, and I'm going to teach you through it. So the feel of space needs to be tidy and clean. When I'm asking him to move, and a lot of times people will think about space as a respect or a disrespect, and I don't really think that. I think a lot of times we're not actually involved in our own space enough. So when we're moving, most of us are right here all the time. So then horses will come searching for you because they want that spatial dynamic. So I really want to remove that mind that your horse is actually trying to push you around or be rude or something. They communicate spatially. Okay, so that's a big piece of the puzzle. The balance of self-carriage from a leadership perspective is that his mind is with me. Okay, so if I apply a pressure, his mind comes, and the balance of space and mind establish self-carriage. So I want to share this with you because it's really going to set a tone for how you see him move when I'm riding him. So therefore, liberty work is somewhat of an expression of these pieces. So if you can start seeing that turning a horse loose or how you're riding them, you shouldn't feel like you have to hold your horses together. if you're having to use your hands to make stuff happen and always riding them with your seat and legs just to keep things going, then it's more about a frame than it is about self-carriage. And my goals are entirely about self-carriage. So I'm pretty pleased with how he's finding this balance. And therefore, what I'm going to do is I think I might get on him and go forward. And we'll stick a little bit more to our plan. As much as the liberty work would be fun. Good. Okay. So again, I want to see that his mind is connected. And if I apply a pressure, my flag is not as much about, you'll notice this, in a relational style, as weird as this sounds, I want people to recognize that they have to show up spatially. It's more important if you want your horse to follow you, that you show up spatially more than you have an expectation of them. Because again, most of us are very small spatially. We're not really showing up for the horses. And then the horse comes looking for us, and then we get after them. This can create a lot of confrontation. All right. So when we show up spatially, you see, this allows him to feel me. And then we can start playing with things a little bit more specifically. Nose and shoulders. Move him sideways, both. This is an energetic connection. Okay. And I will use my flag, my pressure, and this is where this is a pretty important deal. I actually want to use my pressures opposite to where we'll often think. So if I have to use my flag to move him, I'll do that. But what I find is the more I use my space well, bit by bit, I don't actually need my pressure to back it up. Now, what is most common for horses to do with pressure? Initially, they come to us with a mind frame that pressure means run. Okay, pressure means run. They run first and they think second. So I don't actually want to use their instinctual elements of pressure, and I also don't want to dull them down. So where does that leave us? From a relational perspective now, what I actually want him to do is understand he can control pressure by staying attentive to me. Okay, so if I apply pressure, I actually want him to look. Okay, so I'm going to put an energy into it. But I also want him to understand that he can control pressures by staying hooked on. So now we have two complementary features. If you can get your horse's eye, then he actually starts to rotate his own jaw. And then he activates behind. And I still haven't touched my reins. Okay, so then we're setting the horse up to a balance. And this is where I really want to ask everybody this question when you're riding your horses. There is a massive difference between self-carriage and held frame. Okay? And I'm not making any judgments about it, but I want you to think about the differences. If you're having to hold them, then the horse is going to use a different set of muscles. For every muscle, every degree of feel in your hand or weight in your hands that weight is coming by a certain muscular tension in their body to put that weight in there. Okay, so as we're kind of getting this started, anytime I add pressure, I want two things. I want him to know when I apply pressure that he can turn his eye towards me. And secondly, if I apply more pressure, I want it to mean soften more. Good. And I want to feel that softness happen all the way from his hindquarters. So a little bit of pressure, good, walk, and then actually get him to soften a little better. Now, if I put a trot in there, that's an energy change, but my pressure is still meaning soften. I know this is a little bit of a different concept, but I want to take care of his needs the most. Pressure is a need. Horses have to know what to do with pressure. And if I'm always using pressure to tell him to leave, move away, there's a chance, and this is where I see this with a lot of horses, that they're not separating that you're actually putting them into a bit of a state of flee. So there's a tension in it. And then tension takes us away from self-carriage, of them using themselves and giving their muscles. So that's really what we're after. So I just want to state that again, because what I want you to see when I'm riding him is, again, a relaxed top line, a balanced shoulder, a rotated pole, and then an active inside hind leg. Okay? Now, these little quarter horses love to bend their necks. They'd much rather bend their neck than give their hind legs. Why would they do that? Okay? It's a lot easier. It's way easier for them to bend their head and neck than activate their hindquarters. So this is where what you want to see is, I want to stay attentive to his hind legs stepping well. Okay, good. Awesome. Good deal. So, you know what? He's doing really well. I'm going to move forward with the riding, and I'm going to help Jackie out. But I want to just show you this a little bit more in the riding, and I'm pretty pleased with him here. He's doing pretty good now. Good. But I hope you guys can see where the balance of self-carriage shows up. The lower set a horse is, you guys, I remember I talked about this yesterday. The lower set of horse, I guess I should demonstrate this on the side that you guys are on. That would help. The lower the base of the neck from the hip, the lower that angle, the harder it is for a horse to get under themselves. So you watch the way this little horse has to work his hind legs. He's got to work because he's got to get under and lift more. So you take horses that are built a little more uphill, they don't nearly have to work quite so much. And that's just the nature of conformation, which is why you see certain folks get pretty attentive to conformation. And to me, that's the reason, is that we're trying to help a horse as often as we can. All right. So yesterday we did talk about a lot of this, but I really want to make sure that my body is the biggest factor of where a horse goes and how they get there. I use my seat and legs mostly and my balance. Balance is your biggest advocate or your biggest enemy. Okay? So if you're out of balance, your horse will always have a tension. If you remember, some of us, I talked this yesterday, but this idea that the head of a horse is the great cantilever. So if what I mean by that is if you're throwing your horse out of balance, they're having to tip their head all the time just to catch themselves. And this is one of the biggest pieces where I see folks struggle with bend. So if I want him to bend to the left, then I have to make sure I'm not falling that way. Now he might go that way then, but he's doing that just to hold me up. So that's actually getting away from him being able to fluidly use himself. So what I want to see is that I'd like to be able to be aware of my seat position, making sure that my shoulders aren't falling in or out, so that I can set a tone for that shoulder. Then he rotates his pole, because now he can. So I hope you can see my reins are like the strings on an instrument. The reins should not be used to be pulled on, not in this style. And I say 90-10, okay? Everybody comes with a story about it. Well, I remember there was this one time, and I'm sure glad I had reins. And it's the same for me. You know, if the horses are struggling, we're going to, and you're in trouble, then you'll do what you need to do. But in general, when I'm training, I want to get to a place where if I can set his balance up, just like I did in the groundwork, using my leg and my seat to support this, I want to get that shoulder where it needs to be so that I can feel his pole. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to feel my outside rein just a little bit. And as I do that, then you see I can really step that hindquarters under. What I want is I don't want his hindquarters to step across. I want it to step under. I find sometimes folks get confused with the idea of the difference between engagement and disengagement. So just think about that. Disengagement is when a horse steps across and it's like pushing the clutch fully in. You have no more power. Okay, engagement is when that foot steps under and you do not lose your power. Every horse has a bit of a sticky side, and this is Bentley's sticky side. And it's probably my sticky side. Let's just blame it all on Bentley. It's much easier just to shuck that. So Bentley's sticky side is to the right. Good. Okay. Pick up the life a little bit. All right. So I want to feel a fluidity through his shoulders. And I want to feel the rotation come with ease. And it takes us just a little bit of time on this side to feel like I can find that center. That's it. And you can see, I hope you can start seeing what rotation looks like in the pole. Okay, so let's just discuss this for a second. Some people don't even know what the pole is. And maybe some of you are feeling that way. The pole joint is where the skull touches the first cervical joint. Okay, and what you want is that sets a tone for how well a horse can turn left and right. If the head does this, if they tip their head, that locks that joint, and they can no longer engage their hindquarters. If they tuck their chin, that doesn't activate the pole either. So then getting a horse just to give their head and neck doesn't necessarily mean they're changing behind. So the important part for us to be aware of is this is where I call it laterality. What I mean is the lateral body of the horse. So I start with lateral bend, because what I want to know is that I can rotate that pole and feel the change that happens here, activate back here. So that's the beginning of this, is you must be able to sense a horse all the way through. So once they have become lateral, that's when I activate that longitudinally. And that's then what takes us to be straight. All right. If we straighten a horse too quickly, what happens with a young horse? Why do we say in the beginning, when we're dealing with leadership, we want to bend them. And the reason we bend them is because they're rigid and scared, tight and worried. So we start bending them. They start to bend, but bend in itself can also be too much. Because if you bend them too much, now they get wobbly. So everything has a pro and a con. And I say this, every approach has a pro and a con. And the best way to reject someone's idea is just to focus on their con. But what I say is I want to watch everybody, and I want to figure out what their pro is. I want to figure out in their style what the thing is that they do really well. And I want to learn from that. Because I would say, you guys have maybe checked me out a little bit, and you recognize that my slogan is a horseman's pursuit, because honestly all I'm trying to do is just get better. It so happened that folks wanted to join me on that. And that's just the way it's produced or grown. All right, so here as I'm working him, see the balance is pretty good. Rotation of the pole is pretty light. I hope you can see. I do stay in contact. I don't throw my horses away. Because if I were to just drop him, it's a little bit like a child's bike seat, where you want to be kind of right there. You don't want to be so far away in the beginning that when they fall, and now you got to kind of catch him. So I want to find that sweet spot, and that allows me to feel him better. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to trot him a bit, and I'm going to move him laterally. I'm going to canter on both sides, and I just want you to watch the back legs, okay? And you'll notice this on my horses, is that really what I want to feel is I want to feel really active hindquarters. The more a horse is able to reach behind, the more through they are, okay? So recognize, in my work, it has nothing to do with the horse's neck. I'm actually trying to minimize the flexion of the neck so that I can keep my seat focusing on the engagement. As we work our way to feeling a horse this way, we start recognizing why our seat has to be forward and not hollow or back here, because we got to find the center. But really what you're doing is you're actually looking for the horse to come from behind and come over their back. And I want to slowly get him straighter and straighter, but I want to keep that shoulder, keep that pole, feel his hind legs, and then come forward. And that's right there where a horse starts to come over their back. Okay, good. Good. And then all my maneuvers, all the fun stuff blends out of that. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense. I'm just going to move him on the circle to the right. Again, we're just getting a little bit more focused on what does it feel like when the horses find their center, feel balanced. And again, I really hope you can see this. To me, self-carriage is about being close enough to support them, but not necessarily feeling like you got to hold them. When you start understanding the anatomy of balance, you start recognizing that all you got to do is kind of ask the right questions and then get out of the way. Now, if his hindquarters holds him up enough, the canter then starts to get a little better. And it should constantly be him coming under himself. My upper body has to be attentive, because what happens if I leave the center is then he has to start considering me negatively, all right? All right. So the idea here is that I want to be as fluid and true through the gaits as I possibly can. I want to feel like my legs produce a softness. Anytime I apply pressure, I want to feel a yield. I want the pressures I apply to constantly help a horse stay soft to me. We talked yesterday that there's a big difference between lightness and softness, okay? Some of you remember hearing me chat about that. If a horse is only moving light, they can be super tight. They're just quick. Some of you have felt what that feels like to sit on one of those horses, and some of them feel like they're going to blow up underneath you, but they'll sure move when you ask, okay? To me, that's only one side of the picture. I don't want to throw out lightness for that reason, because lightness is great. I've never ridden a bridle horse that wasn't light, okay? They have to be light. But what I want to do is I want to get that lightness in a positive way. Well, the way you do that is you got to make sure they stay soft, okay? So the difference between softness and lightness is again, the outside. Softness is the inside. Softness is how are they feeling to their needs. Make sense? Okay, those are important pieces to recognize that. So pretty soon, if I pick my bridle up, I want to feel all the way through him, and I want to sense that he's relaxed. Okay, so can a horse be soft and scared at the same time? This is the thing about it. If a horse is truly okay, their body starts to let go. Because horses will constantly be feeling their way through this stuff and talking to you. That's why the reins matter. Okay, so I'm not consuming my reins with direction. I'll use them a little bit if a horse needs a hand. But to the best of my ability, my seat and legs have the effect. And if I don't feel a change, my reins are still, focusing on a feeling, and my body is focusing on the direction. Okay, so that my hands are always feeling where he's at. I hope that makes sense. And I use that no matter what I'm doing. If I'm working a cow or I'm trying to dance around in the arena. To me, it is not discipline-based. It's horse movement-based. The idea is the art of allowing them to move as they were made to move. Okay, and that doesn't matter if we're working a cow or we're doing a dressage test in my mind. Okay, alrighty. So what we're going to do is, Jackie, you might as well come on over now. Hopefully that makes sense to you all. Again, just trying to really, thank you. My greatest desire is to educate. Okay, I want you guys to get a sense of what I'm doing. Hopefully in the process you're entertained by it. I hope it's nice to watch. But the focus again is going to be really about teaching you. I hope you can recognize why I'm doing the things I'm doing, and that you can feel through my horses what I'm saying. It's important that you can put those pieces together. All right, so welcome, Jackie. Thank you for making yourself available for this. If you can just give a quick synopsis of your horse, and then I'll feed it back to them. Well, she's nervous, for sure she's nervous. Yeah, good. And that's understandable. This is a weird environment. You know, why are all these people watching me? You know, it's like there's this anxiety that comes with this, so it's understandable. And so you have shared with me that she tends to be a bit dull to your aids. Okay. And that's where you're finding most of your resistance, or most of the work, it comes from that, all right? So as I've been processing how I want to help you with this, I feel like I'd like to ask you to do a couple things, and then I might work her a bit, if you're okay with that. Because I said this to Jackie, but I feel like helping people with horses is a little bit like marriage counseling. Because, you know, we are the ones who always get the final say, so to speak. Well, some horses get the final say. But the horse has an opinion that matters to me. Because I really want my horses to be content. I want them to work their tails off. But I want them to be happy in their work. That matters. So I want to ask her opinion as well. So then yeah, good. That's okay. Mares can get a bad name sometime because they can generally have a little more opinion than the gelding. You know, and I'm not trying to narrow them in, but I think everybody's met a red mare before. You know, and they can sometimes be strong. But the mare's intention is not opinion-based, it's survival-based. The mare in a herd, she's got a lot to take care of. And we forget that pumps through them based on survival. We've taken a gelding's purpose away from him. So they're kind of like, yeah, it don't matter much. You know? But a mare, she's going to pump with that belief of, man, I still got stuff to take care of. And if you're getting in the way of that, well, then she might need to shape you up too. But we have to take the emotion out of that. I think that's the biggest thing, is to take the emotion out of it and just know that it's pumping in her blood to do. So then when the emotion's gone, you'll work her better. You see what I mean? So it's really important that from a perspective you recognize that she's not trying to do anything wrong, but it's easy to pin them down and say, you sorry mare, I'm going to, but what happens now is that now they feel in us that we don't have their back. You see, that's where the difference comes. Now you become less of an advocate and more of a critic. All right, so I feel like it's really important to recognize that our horses need to know we've got their back, that we're not emotionalizing their actions. Their cerebral cortex is so small in comparison to ours, they do not process the world the same way. So it's really important that we just allow them to be a prey animal who is most of the time trying to not die, okay, and do what we ask, and they're quite gracious. It kind of changes the perspective a bit, doesn't it? Yeah, very good. Okay, so what I'd like you to do is just go ahead and lead her. I'm going to have you walk a circle. I just want to see a little bit about how you're doing things, and then you can show me a little bit about the basics of your groundwork. I like to set it up, and I know this is a bit vulnerable, and I hope you don't feel anxious about that, but I really like to see you in her and honor that. So whatever you would do, what groundwork, would you do? Lead a circle, work her hindquarters, or whatever it would be. Just take a minute and maybe just go for a walk and show me that. The reason I do this, guys, is from my perspective, again, I want to see them both, but I also want to see them in their natural state. Because what you naturally do really stems where your struggles are coming from. So if I just told Jackie, good, yeah, you're all right. If I just tell her what to start doing, then I'm seeing her best form of that, okay? And for me, what I want to see is I just want to see them. That starts the best way. Good. So I'm just going to move a little bit here so I can. Awesome. So you find that spatially she wants to kind of get up close to you? Yeah. Yeah, okay, good. Space is a funny thing, and a lot of times when a horse gets unsure, they'll want to get up close to you. And the reason is because they want to talk. You see this in the herd, is that horses will communicate spatially, and this is a big deal. For us, it's emotional. We make space emotional right away, because if someone's pushing on us, we want to feel defensive. When horses are pushing on you, they're seeking conversation because they need to know who's sorting things out. Who's taking care of this moment? So if I can, that doesn't mean we don't deal with it, guys. But you got to unemotionalize it, or you won't deal with it well. How well do we deal with stuff when we get emotional? And I say emotional, I mean reactive in the negative side of it. I don't want to make it sound like emotions are bad. Okay, this is good. So you can see when she's moving, she does tend to want to use that shoulder. Yeah, and you see that she's actually saying, you guys have to have a conversation about this. So very good. May I work her a little? Yeah. Okay, Brooke, do you mind just bringing me that slide? All right. Brooke will, then you don't have to. I know he's a crazy little guy, but I don't want you to have to be dealing with him while you pay attention. Okay. All right. Now, one thing I notice with most people, I said this a little bit with Bentley, and this is a big deal to me, is that most of us spatially don't have a real good awareness of what's outside of us. We've been hurt and we've had bad experiences and we get all protective. And what happens is that then we get into a spot where we're not really outside ourselves anymore. And this becomes pretty hard for a horse. And I don't want to get into it too deeply, but I just want you to recognize, to communicate with an animal, your thoughts have to be outside you. Okay, you have to be able to present what you are saying in a way where they can feel you and it's outside of your body. So I think that in a lot of these situations, we can get too big about stuff. And this mare tends to want to leverage her shoulders pretty quick. And I'm actually going to turn it down a bit. That's it. Because the first thing I want to know is this isn't a confrontation. I'm not here to fight with you. I don't believe that, quick boundaries. See, here's the deal, guys. We are confined by the size of their brain. Now don't think I'm saying they're dumb. But their processor shuts off as soon as they get scared. So as soon as your horse is scared, they're not learning anything. They're just panicking. It happens in us too. We all know those times when we're freaked right out. You're not going to sit there and take something in. Okay? So the horses do that way faster than you will. So the confinement is to be able to build some boundaries and some guidelines for her. Good, there we go. Where she can start feeling me. The key is all the little things. Okay, we get real focused on all the big moments when they run through us or they do things. But to get to a place where you're kind of constantly aware. Now the pressure I apply, you're going to notice this is going to be a bit different, guys. The pressure I'm applying is not even about her. The pressure I'm applying is defining me. So you see, again, that shifts responsibility. So you see, it's so much easier if I could just blame everything on her. We all know how those relationships go. You know, we just shuck the responsibility all the time. It's much easier, but it sure doesn't help the mare. Okay, it doesn't make us better. So I don't want to just throw everything on myself. I think it's a balance. But the first thing I want to do, Jackie, is just get to a place where I'm actually just showing her where I am. Now, but you'll notice one thing here. I have not yet tightened this rein. The hardest thing about space horses, okay, and this happens very consistently, is that we want to hold them up pretty short. Why do we do that? Because we're already in a defensive state. We are kind of already ready for them to run through us. We're waiting for it to happen. So what kind of energy are you giving off? You're kind of already defeated, really. You're kind of already expecting the worst. And because they've pushed on us. Okay. So step one, slow it down. Make it a little bit more about thoughts. Help her learn to feel you. Good. And all you need to do is get to a place where she senses what you're giving off. Okay? Don't get too caught up with this thing. It's just a stick with a little bag on it that doesn't pinhole me into being a Western dude. I guess I maybe look like it, but it's all about horsemanship, guys. I don't care what you're wearing. Okay? I don't care if it's a stick, if it's a coat. It doesn't matter. The idea is, can you use something that helps a horse respond? Number one. Number two, do not hold the lead short. Because as soon as you do that, she now has leverage to lean. Okay? For a while there, I was working with a mule club in Alberta, and that was pretty fun. But these people joked about, they called it mule skiing. And what it was is the mule would just turn his head, and he'd start walking. And they'd kind of joke about how long they could slide before this mule. And some of those mule folks, man, they're not letting go either. You know, they're just hanging on and laughing as they go. Crazy dude. But the thing is, as soon as a horse can turn their jaw like that, boy, they can lean pretty heavy. Because now they can align their power. Is that not the very thing I try to do with that little horse? But I want to get that power aligned for where I want to go. Okay? Now, this is where the halter doesn't serve us anymore. Because if I'm here and I pull on this halter, remember yesterday, guys, why do I ride in a cavesson? Or why do I do my groundwork in a cavesson? Because that turns, so the cavesson is attached here. It turns the head this way. It rotates the pole this way, which activates this hind leg. If I turn the head this way, I'm activating the wrong side. Now, where does that shoulder want to go? It's coming straight at me. Okay, so I'm setting them up to be able to do that. So we actually want our signals from here. Now, that doesn't mean the halter's not valuable. The only thing the halter should mean is soften. Okay? So I want to feel my space, activate the space in a way where I can feel this. Again, I'm just going to keep coming until I feel a change. Again, I find for folks that you gotta get out of the confrontation. Stop and soften. Good. So you see, now what am I doing? This is now affecting her mind, not affecting her defense. What happens every time she gets defensive? She's going to push on you more. Because horses are not much different than us. If they feel your energy get a little huffy, they get a little guarded just because they don't feel safe. So what I tend to do is I tend to want to break these things down into smaller chunks for people so that you can actually have something you can digest. The bigger you get, the more you have to be ready to handle. Okay, so the question is, can what you've got going on handle really getting big and trying to get that done? Now here again, back. Now can you see that her backing, is her backup soft? It depends what you call soft. Okay, so yes, she backed from me, okay? but she did not soften. She's backing with her back tight, quite a bit of weight here, and backing like this. So she is letting go of nothing. You understand? So the idea now is if I can get her to soften, and she knows how to soften her head and neck, good for you. You've got that working, that's great. When I touch this rein, she understands that. Here, when I start walking, oh, it means something else. That's when she starts trying to leverage you. Is that clear? Okay, good. Yeah. So what I want to try to do is I want to get to a place where if I'm moving her hips, I want to feel her hips move, and then I want to feel her soften. There we go. So I start removing the tension in her hindquarters. When a horse goes to moving the shoulders, again, look at that big shoulder. This is a big, sticky shoulder. You fight with that too much, you're going to get, there we go. Good. Now, put a feel in it. But you see, look, oh my, there's a bunch of tension there. Good. So see here, she let her shoulders go, or excuse me, her head and neck. But as soon as I ask for a yield, oh my goodness, that shoulder plugs up again. Good. Move. So my goal for her, good, would be, there we go. There, good. So that's the first time she actually softened her shoulders for me. So recognize your halter and your lead rope is for feel. And that's the same as the reins when you watch me ride that little horse. When I pick the reins up, so I'll back her here, and there we go. Can you see the difference, guys? Sense the difference between lightness and softness in the rein. When I was riding Bentley and I picked my reins up, it's not making him move as much as I probably could move him with my reins. The feel of the rein is to sense this. Because the muscles tell you something about the mind. What happens to you guys when you get stressed? Jackie, what about you? What happens when you get stressed? Do you get more relaxed? Feel good? No. We get tense. And horses, that's how they talk to you. Predominantly your horse is talking to you by the tension in their top line. Okay? What does a horse look like that's stressed? Okay? So what their back is saying is like a blueprint of their mind. So think that. So you're not, okay, now I'm just going to, you see as I'm walking her here, you see as soon as she starts walking, whoop, back into tension. So I'm not pulling, there we go. I'm not pulling. I'm putting a feel in it. Now this is a challenging piece. The best your horse can feel is what's happening inside me. Oh, that sucks. Because we just much rather shuck responsibility. So when you pick up a feel, you have to be trying to give her a deal, okay? That deal has to be in you. And if that deal's not in you, the horses are going to struggle. Okay, so here again, there's two levels. There we go. There's two levels to this. The first is, while she's moving, can I feel a softening? This is number one. See here as she's walking, she's thinking, ready to break. There we go. Hopefully you guys can see the difference. I know it's subtle, but it's the difference between her walking like this, kind of like she wants to stick her ears in there, versus this. I know feel is a challenge, but feel is what most people are missing, okay? That sense of, it's one, move the hips, sure, move the hips, good, move those, good stuff. Moving the hips is fine, moving the shoulders is fine. But what makes the difference between somebody who's doing it and getting a real good change and a person who's not? To me, it's that whole bit of feel. And I understand feel is a bit hard to talk about, but boy, it's necessary. So I'm venturing into trying to teach it. All right. Okay, so you see the change in her when she softens. You've already got that piece. That's great. Her hips soften pretty well. That's good. Her shoulders. Those are the sticky spot. This mare packs her anxiety and her worry in her shoulders. Okay, so recognize this. Every one of you has a horse, and every one of you is going to go, I call it body mapping. This is a big thing for therapy with correctness in horses. Okay, it's not today. We can talk about that another time, but you got to map them out, and you got to find out where they pack their stuff. Okay, so when I go to her head and neck, she's not packing anything in her head and neck. She just gives, oh man, it feels good. Her shoulders, big rocks. Her hips, fine. You and I discussed this yesterday about that rocks and canal example, okay? This mare's got a lot of tension in her shoulders, which blocks her impulsion. Every time a horse tightens, they can't go forward as well unless they're scared. So then you get into the naggy leg deal, right? Okay. All right, I'm going to keep moving here. We're not going to necessarily get the whole thing fixed up today, obviously, but I hope I can give you a whole bunch of ideas. Okay, so now I want to see if I can feel. So again, when I generally connect, remember, connection is first. Focus on the feel. There we go. Sense the tension. One of the biggest things about this, I call it the law of intensity, If you're around someone negative, how long does it take before you start getting negative? Not very long. When you're around someone happy, how long does it take before you start cheering up? Not very long. So the law of intensity says, whatever's most intense that you're around is what you're going to be like. That's just the way energy moves. If her tension is greater than my calmness, I'm going to become tight. And I've lost a level of leadership now because I wasn't able to model what I wanted. And there comes the difference between leadership and dominance. Dominance says, it don't matter what's going on inside me. You just need to act a certain way. So it's a little bit hypocritical because we're asking the person or the horse to do something we're not. Okay, so my goal here is to make sure I just feel the tension, but don't pull on it. Don't try to make her drop her head. That's it. Feel when the change happens. Okay, and I hope you can see the change too. There's a relaxation in her eyes. She sees, and then when I stop her, again, this is just me feeling my own space. Now rein again. There we go. So you see what's happening is I'm taking all the confrontation out of your bridle. You see the difference? All right. So step one, space is its own deal. The rein is for yield. Okay. Now we want to start talking to that shoulder. So instead of going directly at the shoulder, I just want to walk in such a way where she starts to actually move. That's it. I feel the shoulder go and I soften. Good. And now stop. And soften. Good. So what I'm doing is I'm showing you all the various ways. Remember, you guys, your horses don't struggle from one big thing. Okay? People say to me, they say, all of a sudden my horse did this. I've hardly ever seen it. I've seen horses get stung by wasps, jump sideways and stop. I've also seen a horse get poked by a tiny stick and bolt all the way home. Okay? So it's not necessarily the stimulus, it's where they're at. Okay? So if in all these little things, Jackie, you start removing the tensions, you start putting a better feel in the reins. See, these are all the little pieces. You notice that bit by bit, yes, I'm dealing with her shoulders, I'm dealing with her space every time, but it's not starting a confrontation. And then if I can get her mind calm, guess what happens when something changes or someone jumps or something jumps out of the trees? It's no different than us. If you're not in that scared space, it has a different effect. All right. Now, the next piece, I'm going to do this, and then I'm going to get you involved for a minute. The next piece is when we apply pressure. Okay, so a lot of times folks are thinking right here, I'm saying get going forward. And a little bit I am, but mostly what I'm doing is I'm trying to ramp my pressure up a little. You know, nobody struggles when there's no pressure. Nobody, not any of you. Well, maybe some of you, I guess, but mostly we struggle when we're pushed on. Something comes up in life. So the best way to test things is to be able to apply a little pressure. That's it. And help her understand when she feels pressure to let go even more. Pressure, a little more. See, her first thought is to brace. No, there. Now, what you start watching is, she starts moving a little more relaxed. All right? Now I'm going to try this side. Pressure. Now, see, right away she's going to lock up. I'm saying, no, that's not the answer. Just keep working at it. See, the law of intensity has to be pumping in me because she gets pretty sticky. But I'll bet you, Jackie, when you're working her, you join that stickiness. And you guys are mulling around in that stickiness. You know, and because we're not necessarily thinking about that as a real pillar. All right? Leadership is not about you making a horse listen. Really, if it's somebody that's just bossing us around, we don't want to be there anyways. So leadership to me is what you give off and what draws stuff to you. You know what I'm saying? The people that you really look up to, they're not people that are making you stay. Okay, so I just want to continue to give off a better deal for her and keep removing the worries. And I call it redefining the aids. I am going to redefine your halter so that when I touch it, she can give. Now, there's 3 points I want you to see when it comes to yield. The head and neck is 1 point. You've already done a fine job at that, lady. When you touch this rein, she lets go. When the rein talks to the shoulder, it's not nearly anywhere comparable. But her hindquarters is the last one. So you have these 3 points. Okay, neck, good. Hand forward, shoulders. Oh, that's getting better. There. See, when the shoulder has to do something, that's when you're going to see it. So it's mostly when you start stepping. So I step, that's it. There we go. Good. So that's a good change. That's coming nicely. All right. Okay. Does this make sense? Okay, now one last thing. Hips. So I want to feel that she's able to kind of follow me and not push on me here. And then I want to just feel to the hindquarters. There we go. Good. All right. So slowly, bit by bit, we start just changing the dynamic. 360 degrees. You have to interact with them. I did not say push them away from you. And sense what it feels like and replace it with softness. In all the little things. Okay? Once she's already on top of you, you just got to get through that. Okay? Because those aren't the moments you're gonna find success. I find this, if I came in here and I just kind of stormed in on her and made some changes, maybe I'd get a change, but you might not be able to replicate. Okay? And what's important here, guys, is you can see a progression that any one of you could probably go home and replicate. That's what matters to me. And most of the time, it's the feel of those little pieces. All right, let's go ahead and throw a bridle on. Well, maybe we won't throw it on. We'll put it on her nicely. So I'll let you do that. All right, so hopefully that makes sense, guys. The idea, again, here is that we are trying to help the mare. Just wait for a sec. Just hold on.
Yeah.
Put this hand here. Put this hand on it. I totally get it. It's not about bridling her yet. You're not doing anything wrong here. It's something else I want you to think about.
Okay.
Now put this on the lead rope. Put this hand on the lead. Yeah. Now ask her to soften. Bring her head. Because you might prefer, there we go.
Oh, okay.
See, this is where things start to go backwards.
Uh-huh.
So just put your hand, now put her head, ask her to drop her head. Don't put it in yet, slow down. There, that's it. There, and wait. Now feel the tension. Can you feel that? Okay, now just wait. Move your body just a little bit to the side. That's it. When you feel her soften, you take your hand away. So you see how everything starts writing the same story. The bridle's the same as the head and the shoulders and the hips. Everything's the same. Now look at the feel. Now put your hand back. Good, just nice and gentle. Don't be quick. Because when you're quick, what do? You tighten up. And then she starts knowing when she leaves, she's got to leave quick. Because she knows your quick is coming. So you guys start breathing quick. All right, now try again. Start putting it on. And as soon as you feel her starting to tense up, yeah, that's right, just help. There we go. So you see, guys, we're not leaving a trail of tension. We're not leaving a trail of anxiety in the mare. This is big stuff to me. Again, it's not about the big things. It's about the little things. Real great horsemanship is about those small things done well. And then guess what happens when someone else's horse is blowing up? Your horse is not. That would be the plan. And that's it. You're doing fine. Just go on. The key is now, Jackie, is to really, and I understand it's hard when you're on stage. I get it. You're doing a fine job. But just really recognize, even move your hands slow. Slow everything down for her. Because what happens is when you move quick like that, she starts to anticipate attention. So then what happens is by the way you're walking up, you're actually creating attention in her. And I totally get right now, it's tough, okay? And you guys, it's always very big of somebody to put themselves on stage. It's, the quickest way to be a professional is just stay on that side of the fence. It's super easy, you betcha. There's a poem I love, and it's about it's called The Man in the Arena. If you guys want to read that one, it's really good. It's just about how that's where it's not about getting everything right, it's just about getting in there and doing it again. Okay, so any questions about those progressions? Makes sense? All right, so this first step we want to do is I'm just going to actually have you lead her. Would you like to use this? Can I see, have you ever used a flag?
No.
Oh my goodness.
I've used whips.
It's very scary. It's nothing. The only thing about a flag is it allows you to up a little bit more. Now, if horses are scared of a flag, we need to fix that. And you don't just go dull them out. Help them understand how to control it. Apply a pressure, have them soften, take it away. Then they say, shoot, I can control that thing. Pretty soon they don't care. You can touch them with it. But it's if horses are left any time in a state of self-preservation. This is where the problems come. Does that make sense? All right, so now just go ahead and ask her to soften. Slowly, Jackie. I'm serious, this is a big deal. You got a lot of energy, girl. It's a good thing. It's a good thing. But what happens is, if you move it too quick, you got to recognize you got to let it out in flow, right? Because what she does, as soon as you start getting quick, she goes like that. So then you're already starting with a brace. Okay, so just recognize before you do anything, take a breath, and do it the way you want her to do it. There we go. Good. Now look. You see the difference. Now you led by example. To me, great horsemanship is all about that. Again, I get that there's moments when a horse just has to show up. We got to get a job done. But that's like 90-10. 90% of the time we can shape it up right. 10% of the time they got to show up. Okay, now just go ahead and lead her forward. We don't want her to fall too deeply into her state there. Now connect with your rein. Okay, here's the next step. You see it? She steps forward and goes like this. Okay, now think that your rein is not the motivator to come forward. Your body and your flag will help you. The rein is focusing on the field. The same sense you have in her head and neck. Come to me again. Connect with your rein. Just connect with your rein a little bit now. Now ask her to soften with your rein. So now while she's walking, what kind of feel do you have? Connect with your rein. Yeah, that's good, but check. Check. Ah, there. If you are wondering how your horse feels, pick up your rein. Sense it. If there's tension inside, wait till it softens. Model the feeling you want. Have it in you. Good stuff. Now, do a small circle. Take your hand slightly in front of you and feel her hindquarters. Good. Okay, good. There. Good. What I hope you can start tuning your eyes to is the difference between a horse moving tight and a horse letting go. Okay? It doesn't just all of a sudden happen, but you got to get to a place where you can see a progression of ways you can break it down that you can succeed. Okay? So feel it can be a developed thing. All right, stop now. Do not touch your rein. Do not touch your rein. Back her a step. No. Turn if you need to. Face her. So that's right. See, you wanted to touch your rein even from the other hand. Ah, there. Yes. Now ask her to soften. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, very good. Yes, come on. Give her a good. Yeah, small things, but big things. Because now you stop writing the story that's creating your problems. You understand? Every time you touch that rein and she leans on you, you give her something to lean on. And then because she's doing it, it makes you want to push harder. So then you keep writing the same story. Okay, so now next, we start smearing this into the bridle. Because you need your bridle to have the same effect. So I'm going to let you do this part. I'm just going to watch. And so now ask her to soften. No bridle yet. Halter, yes. Okay, good. Now touch your bridle rein. And just ask her to see what she'll give you there. Because the question for me now is does the mare know that the same feel in the halter, that's it, good, a good start. The only thing I didn't really like is how she comes and this. Okay, what that means is she says, I might need to create my own release. Okay, so it's really important that anything you're asking is progressive. Now pick up your rein again. Just try this one more time. Connect. Take your hand out here like this. Yeah, that's it. And release a bit. Good. Now, you don't have to drop her. There's a difference between dropping a horse and releasing. So I say dropping is kind of like super kindergarten. You know what I mean? And you're not there. So when you pick your rein up, when you feel, relax. So you can still be in contact, but she can feel you. Try it again. Yes. So to get a horse to bend, it's lots of little releases. But it's releasing when you feel the change, not when you see them do something physically. Okay? Because you got to feel the changes. Then when you see them move it physically, you'll have feel and physicality together. Now step to the side. You're going to do a circle all the way to her hindquarters, but take the rein with you. Now what I want you to do as you pick your rein up is I want you to tell me where the stuck is. Connect to it. Keep moving. Stay connected. And did you feel the change, Jackie? Wonderful. So see, your reins become the conduit to sense the deeper change in a horse. They're not necessarily for direction. We lose massively when every time we pick our reins up, we only release on the movement. Because what happens is that tension that's in her, that's blocking your whole story, stays tense. All right. Any questions about that? I'm going to take you to the next step. All right, so I'm just going to take the flag. And I'm going to keep this. Would you mind getting on her? So now what I want to do is I want her to understand that just because someone's on her back, just the rules haven't changed. But you notice right here, you see she's actually quite a bit stickier to go backwards now. So her and our hat, there we go. Okay, so what I want her to start understanding is the rules haven't changed. I'm not going to scold her for it. I'm not going to get after her for it because, you guys did your best to get that done. But the mare tried her best. You tried your best. It's fine. But it did create a bit of tension. Okay. So now I'm going to stop. Now, engage the space. Occupy this bit. Good. Okay. Now soften. I do this when I start my colts too. It's just a really simple way of, every time I just take them, I map them all out. I put the pad on, the saddle on, the cinches on, show that they're still giving and releasing. Then I put a rider on and do the same thing. It's just real slick because you can kind of get a lot done with two folks. And then now what I want to see is while she's got you on her back, is she able to get back to that place of softness? As much as you maybe don't need a pony ride. I'm not necessarily believing that by doing this. But what I want to do is I want to start feeling her body a little bit more through the physicality. Anytime she gets stuck, create motion again. Don't just get bigger. Okay, that becomes a real problem. So you see how her shoulder got stuck, wanted to come right to me? Good. So again, feel that? No, don't you do not. You just sit there and look good. Good. So you see here again, she's pretty sure that's it. There, good. See when the shoulder changes? It's so hard. So what I want you to consider, make sure you're not leaning into the shoulder. So you're not falling off the outside, but feel that outside seat bone. That's it. Good. So your zipper should still be along her crest. There we go. But you're not leaning in.
Yeah.
Because if you lean in, the shoulder is going to come right into me. Okay. Now, I want you to use this leg a little. And release. That's it. There we go. So what I'm doing is I'm smearing this into your leg aid now.
Okay.
Because she doesn't, the leg is still going to produce a bit of tension because it's in a bit of an old mind. Mm-hmm. Okay, now put the leg on. See, brace. Just release. You see, when you put your leg on, what was her first thought?
Brace, yeah.
Yeah. So that's what she thinks it means. She's not trying to be bad. She just thinks that you guys are going to have that conversation. All right, now again, leg. Release. Good. See the shoulder starting to move with a bit more feel. Again, leg. Good. Wait. Release. Yes. Good. It's okay, Mary. Good. So you see what we're trying to do is we're just trying to replace the old feel with a new feel. And if you can show a horse, you just start taking all that junk out. There's no resistance. So most of the resistance you're feeling, outside seat bone, inside. That's it. And release. That's it, Jackie. Good job. Again, most of the resistance as action that you guys want answered is not the problem. Or spooks or bolts or bucks or whatever. Most of it's all this resistance that you're not dealing with by the way you fashioned a style of riding. Okay? So I'm not a disciplined rider. What I mean, it sounds bad. I don't have a discipline. Okay, I come from a certain place, and that's kind of where you're going to get judged by what you wear, I guess. But I try not to judge people by what they wear. I like to learn about people by how they communicate with others and their horses. Okay, I don't want to get off track. We've got a couple more things to do. Okay, you recognize your leg matters. Her natural response when you use your leg is to brace against your rein. All right, now pick this rein up. Stay calm, breathe into your seat. Make sure I'll tell you. But when you first pick your rein up, you go into your upper body. Okay, make sense? So you just went like this. So you're thinking of your reins from your shoulders. Okay, and what I want you to do is pick this rein up. Now connect this hand to your seat. Now when I pull on this, that's it. Think about your seat into the mare, not with muscle. You're strong, girl. Relax. There. It's like it's a feeling. You see, versus a muscle. Okay, as soon as you stiffen, she knows what to do. Yeah, she just braces. She says, we're going to that conversation. No different than when somebody says something a little snarky. We're going to have it out that way, are we? You see, so you got to set a tone all the time. By balance, you can remove your tension. So every time you pick this up, connect with your seat. That's it. There. So relax, but sit into the horse. It's grounding. Okay? Now, go ahead and connect with this rein. Now, whoa, no. I got her still. Don't worry. Slow it down. Because see, every reaction like that creates a tension. Who cares if she walks a bit? We'll fix it. But fix it the way you want it to be fixed. Because every time you do it quick, it creates a tension again. Feel how I'm talking. I'm sure some people are asleep because of how I'm talking. Okay. The idea is that I'm trying to create an energy for the mare. All right? So now when you pick this rein up, the rein is for feel. Feel her. That's right. Very good. Now come forward. Good. That's it. Connect with your inside rein. Gently nudge your inside leg. until you feel, there. Feel that? Release. That's it. Now do it again. Inside rein. Inside, that's it, release. Good, excellent. You get the idea?
Yeah.
Pretty soon your leg, you touch her with your leg, what does it mean? It means release. No, I just go. It means release. Because the thing that's blocking your go is tension. Okay, it's not, horses don't just generally don't want to go. They usually don't go because there's something blocking their go. She has a massive amount of tension in her shoulders based on the definition of the aids that's blocking the forward. Make sense?
Yeah.
Let's just try the other side because I'm going to get kicked out of here. That's it. So you got to make, same idea, you betcha. Just slow. There, release. It's okay. I just want to pin that down for you because you got to recognize that's a piece to her. Every time you pick your rein up, she kind of holds her breath. And you want to just relax. Again, rein, leg. That's it. Yeah, wonderful. Release everything. Let her walk. Good. There. See how she can move with flow? Because you've removed the problem.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, everybody, can we give Jackie a hand? So this is good. Let's see. A natural pressure to a yield. Very good.